investor quarters in REI Live Sarasota, and I am so excited to have the Mr. Chad Gates with us. He is a local real estate attorney, and he is a wizard at all things, period. I don't even need to put a specificity on it. So, Chad, what's going on with real estate? Because we're back open in Sarasota and Florida, right?
I don't think Sarasota ever really shut down. It seems like everybody comes down here from up north is really surprised to see people walking around without masks and doing business. We literally have not shut down a day in my office and have been as busy as any time that I can remember during this summer. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy. What's going on now, I think, at the beginning, last time we talked, I was telling you a little bit about how all the closings are really happening and all the arguments that we typically see between buyers, sellers, and brokers was kind of just not there. Everybody was just so excited to get a property and get it closed. And, during the time of this pandemic, and they're thinking everything was going to fall apart. And all of a sudden, when it came together, everybody was just great, happy to have it done. I think we've moved past that, and now we're in it back to a market where people want to fight and bicker and argue about everything. And it seems like all our closings are now a little bit more difficult to get closed. I think everybody's busy, including us, and things are getting overlooked, and it causes for problems at the end. I think the lenders are absolutely swamped. We're not seeing loan packages and numbers until the day of, if we're lucky, sometimes the hour of closing. So it doesn't give us much time to really look at the documents and look at the numbers to make sure they're right. So that's a problem for us. A lot of closings are getting pushed off because lenders aren't ready. Everybody's committed to a certain date. The lender tells you going to be ready for a certain date, and then the documents just don't come for one reason or another. Seems to be a lot of lenders still collecting documents at closings for underwriting purposes, which is kind of strange, but we still got a lot of that going on. And then anytime there's a probate outside of Sarasota, it becomes a little bit more difficult to get documentation because a lot of the courts offices are, hey, hold on, wait a second, give me one second. I'm on a conference call for an hour. Somebody else gonna have to handle it. If it's anywhere outside of Sarasota, it's difficult to get documents out of some of the clerk's offices and probate judges' offices. So that's causing us some delays too. And unfortunately, when those things happen, we really don't have a time frame as to how fast we're going to be able to get that information and get the closing. So it becomes frustrating for people because they're trying to move and things like that. The good side of real estate right now is that there's not a lot of sellers, it seems like, out there, and the buyers that are buying are serious about buying. So it seems to be a little bit more of a seller's market than we all anticipated having right now. So everything I hear on the street is if you put it on the market and it's priced anywhere near where it should be, it goes pretty quick. I guess that's good news. And interest rates are still low. That's really good news. I mean, interest rates, we see on rates in the mid 2s to high 2s on a 30-year fixed, which it's pretty much free money, I would guess. That's about it.
Yeah. So one thing that we had talked about with the shutdowns of the county offices, it was taking a little bit longer time for lien and title and all those searches to come back. Are those still taking 2 or 3 weeks, or how long is it taking those to come back in Sarasota and Manatee?
Manatee is 10 business days typically. Sarasota is still somewhere 15 to 17 business days, which is about 22 calendar days. I don't know what's going on now, but back before the pandemic hit, we'd have some conversations with the county, Sarasota County, about what's taking so long. And apparently there was 2 ladies that do these things part-time. One of them was out on maternity leaves, so they were backed up. I don't know. It still seems like it's a pretty long process to get that out. Sometimes we're getting around it by the parties agreeing to hold back an escrow pending receipt of the search for the lien search. So I just did one a day where we held back $2,500 pending the lien search results. Once we get it back, then I'll refund the money to the seller or deduct whatever needs to be deducted from it.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about buying something, you need to close faster than that 30-day period. Probably need to negotiate some kind of escrow holdback as to the lien search so that we can make sure it's clean before everything's done.
Okay, good to know. So what else is kind of happening? Or are you hearing? I definitely agree. If you're priced anywhere close to it, it's moving like insane. What else is kind of going on? Because I haven't been in Sarasota in a hot minute. So what's going on down there?
It's just things are moving, just absolutely moving as fast as possible. I see a lot of, about a third of our closings right now are people moving from out of area to Florida to get away from big cities, big taxes, and all the chaos that's going on in the Northeast, Chicago, New York City, Boston, Philadelphia. I mean, it seems like almost a third of all our people are moving out of those areas. They have young families and they can work remotely, so they're coming down here and buying houses. So see a lot of that. A lot of people buying second houses down here that still have places up there too, spending more time down here. It's the new housing seems to be on fire. I mean, everything that seems to be being built is being bought. I saw where new houses were up 30% in Florida this year, new house sales. That's just pretty amazing when you think about it. Yeah, I mean, everything looks like this is a great market. Just, I think right now, this week and into next week, with the stock market kind of taking a little bit of a dip, people might start getting a little nervous before the election, and I don't know if that'll stop any closings or slow down the people buying right now until after the election. But I sure think people are aware of the election and starting to think, about both sides and what happens if either one wins and where that goes.
We had talked, I believe it was right when we talked when coronavirus was coming out and lockdown was happening, about commercial, and kind of that taking a larger hit than even the residential side. Are you still seeing that, or what's kind of going on in that side of the market?
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of commercial properties moving right now. I think the commercial guys are, especially in the office sector, are a little concerned about how that's going to play out. Office space seems to be, with people working from home, you don't need much office space, and people are still wondering if that's going to hold true a year or 2 years down the road. Retail is a mess. That's one sector that doesn't seem to get any traction right now is retail, especially small little strip centers and bigger properties also. I think people are kind of concerned what's going to end up happening in the future related to those properties. So we're not seeing a lot of those take place. I am seeing some refinances from some of the banks I do business with related to property, mostly owner-occupied commercial property for businesses that are refinancing to get advantage of the lower rates. But that's about all I'm seeing right now. The multifamily properties, that stuff's on hot. That stuff's really hot. You see a lot of people buying that. Feels like there's a lot of money moving into that market on these smaller, duplexes, fourplexes, sixplexes, type stuff. We see a lot of that stuff moving around, and I see a lot of transfers there. That's about it.
Yeah. Awesome. So guys, we do have a chat box. If you guys have questions for Chad, or you want him to dive into anything, you're definitely welcome to post it there. I know that a couple people have logged on, so I'm going to post again. If you have questions, please post here. While we're talking about that, Chad, I know that there had been a couple questions last time about the best way to structure your LLCs when investing in real estate. And I know that I've talked to a couple people that are actually on this call about the best way to do that as they move money into the state of Florida from other states, whether it's Colorado or New Jersey. Can you dive into that for a second?
Yeah, I had a conversation about that with a client this morning, and he wasn't understanding it. So I told him, I said, you live in it, you don't want to own it. If you don't live in it, you don't want to own it in your personal name. So, the entities we use down here just about exclusively are LLCs. Anything that is an investment property or a rental property should be owned in an LLC. As to how many properties you should have in each LLC is kind of up to you and how risk adverse you are. But the proper way to do it is to take the money that you have in your account, fund that LLC, the capital contribution, and then use that money to buy the property or for that payments, whatever it may be. And then everything should flow through the LLC. As long as you do that, you're going to be pretty good on your liability.
And I know that we've had a couple of conversations, and you're not an accountant, but what's the best way to protect yourself as for sole proprietorship, partnerships, S corps and C corps as the taxation? Didn't we have a conversation about it was better to not have it in a sole proprietorship, but to have it in a partnership?
Well, it depends on the type of business you're doing, how many partners you have, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a tax attorney, so I don't do any of that. But for our purposes of this conversation, just know that if it's commercial or something other than your homestead, it should be owned in an LLC. As to how that LLC is taxed, you can choose it to be taxed as a partnership or as an S corp. That's a conversation you should have your accountant about how to do it and what to do, and then we could just make that designation for you. But sole proprietorships, typically, if you're operating any type of business, you shouldn't be operating it through your own name. There's just too much liabilities when you do that.
Okay, perfect. Darren, did you have any other questions about moving money here and buying rental properties? Because I know that you guys already have one under your belt.
Yeah, I think I've got some. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe after this call, I could, get in touch with Chad to talk to some more specific details. But yeah, we currently have a rental property in Anna Maria Island. We do have an LLC, but the property is under our personal names right now, and we want to figure out how to kind of transfer that property to the LLC, and then going forward, the best way to purchase a second property with that LLC.
Yeah, the transferring the property in the LLC is not a problem. It's just basically a quitclaim deed from yourselves to the LLC. The issue is whether or not there's a mortgage on the property, and if you have to pay dock stamps for a portion of that transfer. A lot of times, if there's an outstanding mortgage there, you'd have to pay dock stamps on that balance of that mortgage, with it going from you to the entity, unless there's certain circumstances. And sometimes that can get expensive if you have a high dollar property. So, but we could talk about all that at some point.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and that's exactly the case.
Does anybody else have any questions for Chad? Hey, Kevin.
I got a question.
Okay.
Sure.
If get ready to sell a property, is there anything I can do to expedite the sale, such as going ahead and getting a survey, or can you get a general title search to speed up anything?
Well, the kind of the 5 things we need when we start going through the process of getting a property through a closing is a title search. Those are pretty quick. We can get those back 3 to 5 days, sometimes sooner if we need to. So that they typically aren't an issue. Surveys, if you have a prior survey, we can use that, unless it's too old or there's something wrong with it, or you've done something to the property that the survey doesn't show. If not, I can get a survey typically within 7 to 10 days without a rush fee. We need payoffs of any loans you have. Sometimes those take a full time to get in. And the one that really bothers us and causes a lot of grief is the lien search. So people confuse the lien search and the title search. Title search is searching for title issues related, they're liens also, but they're recorded in the public records. They're mortgages, easements, judgments, those types of things. The municipal lien search that we're talking about that causes us so much problems is basically we have to go to each of the municipalities and extract from them information regarding past due water bills, sewer bills, building permits, code enforcement issues that are not recorded yet. So those are the ones that take us some time, and every municipality and county and city have different time frames to get those done. And it's very frustrating. Some of them are as quick as a week, and some of them are as slow as 20 something days. So that's when we're talking about the lien search. That's what we're really talking about. As for the other things, if you have a prior survey and you have a prior policy, those help us get things done pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't, but that's probably why I thought title searches take so long, but that must be incorporating the lien search takes long.
Yeah, in the past, we've talked about title searches as being lien searches because that's what it really does, is look to see if there's any liens out there. But, when we had the downturn in the real estate market and everything was going through foreclosure, the title underwriters had so many claims related to unpaid water bills and building permits being outstanding and other code enforcement type stuff that wasn't recorded. So code enforcement, you don't mow your grass They come out there, put a sticker on your door, says, hey, you haven't mowed your grass, mow it, or you're gonna get a lien. And then you don't do it, or you do it. At some point in time, there's a dollar fine related to that, and it doesn't. A lot of times it's not converted to a lien that's recorded in the public record. So that's what we're looking for when we do these lien searches, are those types of things. We didn't used to do them because it really doesn't affect title. It affects the ownership, because what the municipality is trying to do is hang that on a new owner, even though it's a charge to the old owner. So there were so many title claims with that kind of thing in 2009, 10, 11, and 12 that all the underwriters got together and decided we're going to have to do these searches. And it's been a real pain because they really take a long time, and it's hard to explain to people why it takes so long. And you know, everybody thinks of a title search, and they'll call up somebody else. I'll say, hey, it's 23 days before we get this search back, and they call up another title company and they say, oh no, we get searches back in 3 days, but it's not the lien search, it's a title search. And everybody kind of uses those terms, you know, they mix them up, and it causes a lot of confusion. So
Right. Thanks,
you know,
Chad. That explains a lot. I didn't realize that's where the time frame was coming from.
we could get around, you know, if it's a property that we just closed on and we have a relationship with a seller, and I know the seller hasn't gone out and done anything crazy, and pays their bills and all those types of things, sometimes we can say, hey, we're just going to take the risk and overlook it. You know, a lot of times the buyer is willing to assume that responsibility and say, I trust them, it's not a problem. But you know, the water bill is really where it comes down. You know, when tenants move out, especially properties that have been rented, the tenant moves out and leaves an outstanding water bill, the county might try to collect that from the new owner, even though they're not allowed to. They still try to collect it a lot of times, and you know, some of those bills were significant at times. I've seen some as high as $3,000 and $4,000. So that's really where our risk is.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Quiet day.
It is. People must be still sleeping or getting ready for Halloween.
Yeah. Well, anybody on here, if you're in real estate or thinking about getting in real estate and you want to have a more in-depth conversation, I'm happy to sit down with you. Don't charge for it. I do it all the time. We could talk about what's different from where you're from and here, and how to do things right, and try to direct you in the right direction on forms and structuring and all those types of things. So I know a lot of people go out and go to a lot of different seminars, and they learn different things at these seminars, and they come back and want to try to implement those in Sarasota or Florida. And sometimes they need to be tweaked, and sometimes you're getting not all the information when you go to these things. So I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about it, lead you in the right direction so you're not making mistakes and have to pay for it somewhere else. So just call me and we're happy to walk you through it.
Chad, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Phone number is 941-366-8010. And my email is the letter C, Gates @band, which is BAND, gates.com.
I just threw those in the chat box for everybody. Sorry, I didn't use the hyphens for the phone number. That's gonna be hard for people to read. And while we're talking about things where you can gather together, I'm really excited. This week, actually Thursday, we'll be having REI Live SRQ in person at the Carlisle. There is an hour of networking at 5:30, and then we'll be having DJ Scott speaking at 6:30, answering questions about how he got into real estate and his real estate journey. So if you guys are on Bigger Pockets, he's got a podcast up there and a bunch of stuff up there. He's now a Sarasota local, so that'll be there. Chad, are you planning on coming on Thursday?
I will be there.
Yes.
So I'll be there.
Yay! I get to see you. I haven't seen you since what, February?
Yeah, I'm happy to start getting back into some social events. It's been a long time. It seems like it's been almost a year since all this stuff was going down.
It really does. It's been 9 months.
It has been 9 months for sure.
I don't know if that's the best time to be pregnant or the worst time to be pregnant during lockdown. Like, there's nothing to do.
Well, it's true.
But no, so we'll be having that get together. So we'll be back in person for the rest of the year. So I'm excited about that. So if you guys have direct questions, I know Darren, you're still in Colorado, so that won't work for you. You'll be back down here in December. But if you guys are local, it's at the Carlisle Inn on Bay Vista at 5:30. Join us. There'll be an hour to meet and greet, and you can talk to Chad in person. Does anybody else have any questions before we let Chad get back to his day and trying to herd cats and get closings done? You're welcome to unmute or throw it in the chat box.
Looks like,
I don't see anything.
no, looks like,
Haven't unmuted again.
All right, I'm back. Chad, what are your feeling? I know some of the members, Sarasota, really push these land trusts over LLCs. And maybe I'm wrong. Everything I've got now is in the family trust, and I want to move it out of my name. So it's probably leaning towards an LLC. But what's your opinion on these land trusts as far as hiding ownership? I know it doesn't give the protection, though.
yeah, I mean, you know, land trusts are something that keep coming up year after year. I think there's a couple of these real estate gurus running around the country that are saying that land trusts are the only way to do things. I mean, land trusts were great back, you know, years ago before they changed some of the laws, because we could buy a piece of property in a land trust, and then when we sold that property, instead of selling the property, we'd sell it the beneficial interest of the land trust. You didn't have to pay doc stamps on the transaction. So on $1 million property, you could save $7,000 by doing that. It also saves some you know, other costs such as title insurance and things like that. But the state changed the rules on it, and now you still have to pay doc stamps on that, so it kind of took that away. So now we typically see people using land trust for two reasons. One, for simplicity. They can, you know, if you're living in Colorado, for example, and you have a property in Florida, and you want to deal with that property in Florida, you can use a land trust and hire somebody like me to be your trustee. And now I can sign documents, leases, mortgages, those types of things on behalf of the trust as trustee, and you don't really need to be here for that. So that's one thing that really helps. The other one is if you're trying to hide or trying to keep your name out of public record. So if a land trust is formed, I'm the trustee, it'll either show up in the public record as ABC Land Trust or Chad Gates, trustee of the ABC Land Trust, one or the other. And your name won't be on there, and people looking into the public records won't be able to find that because we don't record land trust in the state of Florida. But the problem with land trust, and where I think people start to make mistakes, is they think that a trust is an asset protection document. It's not. It doesn't have any asset protection qualities at all, other than they're, you know, hard to find who the owner is sometimes. So, you know, used right, which is a land trust with a beneficiary being an LLC that you own, it's not a bad way to own property. I kind of like that way of owning property, but you need to have that LLC still in there as your beneficial interest, because anything that happens in that trust, that's the property owned by the trust, can get to your personal assets. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right. All right. Thank you.
So yeah, land trusts, I mean, if you use them right, they're good. You know, I think a lot of investors, not a lot, some investors I've heard use them, and they name themselves as a trustee, and they use it for the purpose of being able to say to their tenants that they don't own the property, that a trust owns a property of which they're a trustee, but they're really not the beneficial interest. And they, you know, when they go and talk to tenants, and tenants say, hey, I want this or I want that, instead of, you know, knowing that that person who they're talking to is a trustee is the owner to make a decision, they say they're not the owner, and that they have to go back and talk to the owner, and it gives them a little bit of insulation between them and their tenant as to ownership. I'm not a big fan of that, but I know that a few people around town are actually doing that. I think it just causes confusion.
Right.
Anything else?
But if you're going to do a land trust, you should still do it with the LLC actually owning the property, which I probably did not just say that right, but.
Well, the LLC, the land trust that own the property, the beneficial interest of the land trust is the LLC. And the good thing about land trusts is they're not recorded. That beneficial interest is never of record anywhere other than in the document itself. So, you know, a lot of people, especially if they're being chased by judgment creditors, might use land trust, and because they can turn around and change that beneficial interest if they need to their benefit. Not really supposed to do that, but there's no way really to prove that somebody's doing that either.
Okay, good. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Chad. We'll see everybody at 5:30 at the Carlisle for REI Live Sarasota. And we'll be having an event at 3 o'clock at one of our projects that we just finished. If you guys would like to come to that, just RSVP on our Eventbrite site, okay?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Call me if you need anything.